Hey guys, what's going on? We're doing another Enhancement Shaman Mythic Plus video. We are in the Stonevault at a +8 level with Fortified this week. Was Tyrannical last week, and if you
Collect
get
or
to a
stand in
10, you
circle.
get both Fortified and Tyrannical, so it's interesting to have done. We did attempt a 10, but we had 86 wipes, and we ended up finishing it, but it was not very fun, and it was Stonevault as well. But anyways, this video is sped up by about 1/4% because you know, it was like 30 minutes long, so I figured, well, why not shrink it a little bit? But yeah, so we're in the Stonevault, which is considered one of the more difficult ones, and we have the new weekly Xalatath bargain out. This one gives you mastery, and it works differently, which is kind of interesting. So basically, rather than having to CC or purge or whatever to the orbs that spawn in a general area, you know how orbs spawn outward in a circle, like a very spread out circle, and they charge into the mobs. Essentially, you have to collect them or stand in their way to get them, and you get a burst of mastery and leech, which is kind of nice. But I would say I definitely prefer the other one. As for what's happening next week, I have no idea. Very curious to see, but yeah, be interesting. But anyways, on an Enhancement Shaman note, we got a lot of representation in the race to world first, which is really cool to see. That was awesome to see. I can't believe it, but yeah, and we're doing mad numbers too. At least the top players are. I'm not doing so great, but hey.
Jump 3
And
times.
in Mythic Plus, we're also really good, which is great to see. So I'm really crossing my fingers that we're not going to get nerfed, because Blizzard doesn't really like seeing enhancement perform very well. So I am going to hope we continue on this path of awesomeness, because yeah, it's been a long rut of not being that great in Mythic Plus, but we have always been somewhat powerful in raid scenarios. But yeah, so seeing the race to world first was pretty great. Um, Especially considering enhancement was in there, although there was only, I think, one per team, because we don't really bring a whole lot of utility, I guess, so there isn't much of a point to bring two. We still saw them up on the meters doing a whole lot of damage, and the current raid build has swapped from Elementalist to Storm as well, with while still using Elemental Blast and stuff. We now have a much easier rotation in a sense for raiding, especially single target. AoE gets even easier. But yeah, I've always been a more of a fan of Storm than I have Elementalist, and the
Jump
reason
3
being is
times.
it's much easier. And if you keep hearing that weak aura, that noise telling you to jump, grab something, that's just my weak aura for my transmitter, just so I don't have to look for anything. I know it's kind of cheating, but the trinket's kind of a pain in the butt, so figured I'd make it easier. But yeah, enhancement looking awesome for all scenarios. I know once you get into those cleave fights, like the Gahoon guy and the two bosses, the second last boss, enhancement just performs so well with getting that cleave funnel effect going on, with chain lightning spreading so far, tempest hitting so hard. It's insane, absolutely insane. Oh yeah, Ruben died here, so I had to kite a little bit. But yeah, I have tried out Totemic. I tried Totemic Storm. The issue with Totemic is that, like, it's super awkward in a way, because when you drop your totem, you have to use certain spells, right? Which isn't the biggest issue, but like, you basically have to go. Usually when you'd go into a fight, you would think, oh, drop the totem first. No, you have to Primordial Wave or Flame Shock, whichever one first. Then you have to Lava Lash to spread, and then you drop your totem and use Fire Nova, because you
Collect
want to
or
use
stand in
that
circle.
flame effect for Fire Nova and not Lava Lash in AoE scenarios. So it is a bit of a pain in the butt. Um, Again, you have to keep moving it too, so that really sucks. But we are getting a complete rework in 11.0.5, so hopefully that fixes a lot of the issues. But I'd have to say it wasn't too bad. I did get a Totemic, the Surging Totem, to end up hitting for, I think I got it to top out at about 3 million on an AoE pack. So it was kind of crazy to see that with both Ascendance procced and Sunder going. It's kind of insane. but it is fun in a sense, but it definitely is a pain in the butt compared to Stormbringer, where you just press Tempest and that's it. There's no extra action button or anything like that. So yeah, I am looking forward to these changes coming in 11.0.5, but I still think like Totemic is a big issue because it gives you that extra action button, and because they want to push Elementalist into Totemic, you're now giving a specialization that has already so many buttons to press and work with, and now you're giving them another one. It's like really odd,
Collect
and
or
I
stand
don't
in
see it
circle.
being very popular in a sense. Even if it is like top level, I still feel like people are gonna prefer playing Storm over it. But yeah, that's my biggest concern about that one. But talking about Stormbringer, the changes coming to that are quite insane. There were a lot of changes to Ascendance and how Rooted Elements works. So recent patch, Rooted Elements is now a 6% proc chance. And if you didn't know, it now procs off of Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning. Well, it used to proc off of their damage dealt, so every time they did damage, it would have a chance to proc Ascendance, meaning Chain Lightning would have 5 shots to proc it, and Primordial Wave Lightning Bolt would have a chance to proc off of each of those. Now it's changed to on cast, which makes a bit more sense than on damage. So you do have a less chance to proc now, but you also have a like less chance to proc in general because you're not hitting as much, I guess. So it's a pretty heavy nerf to Root of Elements, but it does incentivize you casting, which is nice. But on that note, I think regular Ascendance is going to take over just due to these changes, because I don't think you're going to get enough procs, even
Collect
though
or
it is
stand in
getting
circle.
an additional 2 seconds of Ascendance time during Root of Elements. I think just having a 2-minute cooldown, line it up with Doom Winds on Ascendance, it's just going to go so hard. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be really good for Mythic Plus because it'll almost be like every other pack, right? Just like Doom Winds, every other pack you can Doom Winds. It is going to be crazy. And for PvP too, that's going to slap pretty hard. But yeah, I see these changes being massive. And there was a bit of concern with Ascendance not reducing the cooldown of Storm Strike. That has been brought back, which does make sense, but at the same time, it really didn't feel like I ever had Storm Strike on cooldown due to the fact of having 2 charges of Storm Strike now. It really doesn't feel like Storm Strike is ever on cooldown, so honestly, in my opinion, it really didn't feel like it changed much after, testing it out for a while. But maybe some people didn't get as lucky and, all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's the changes are looking good. The new Ascendance form is pretty awesome. I'm pretty excited about that. I know the goofy hair some people didn't like and some people did like. Um,
Jump
it's
3
good
times.
for a meme. I'm glad they added the glyphs for the options, because I still do really like the original design of the Ascendance. I just wish they'd do like a slight update to it. You know what I mean? Just rework it a little bit, but keep the same model. Um, but yeah, I'm genuinely excited for the changes, and I don't feel like they will nerf us, but maybe that's just me thinking positively. I don't feel like we're absurdly overpowered. We are more glass cannony than other classes in a sense, but I still feel like we're in the line of balanced, maybe. But maybe I'm just talking out of my ass. I don't know. Um, but yeah, like we feel really good in all scenarios, both Elementalist and Storm, feeling both great. Especially in Mythic Plus. I feel like we really shine in Mythic Plus with that cleave and stuff like that. I don't see it being too much of an issue. But and with the rework coming, I honestly don't feel like we should be seeing a nerf at all because we're getting a modification in general. So, but yeah, whether that change is going to be a nerf or a buff, we'll find out later on. But yeah, I have no idea. I'm really crossing my fingers we're not going to get nerfed. But talking about Mythic Plus and the general stuff of it, enhancement does bring a lot of utility, especially here for Stonevault. Some of the mobs cast a fear, which can be easily interrupted or
Jump
CC'd
3
out of.
times.
But if one does go off, we have Tremor Totem to save us, right? So you have that option to just let it go and just tremor it off, right? You do have to cast Tremor before it goes off, but it's still very, very useful. As well as a lot of curse effects, especially in Stonevault. Stonevault seems to have everything going on. Fears, curses, and stuff like that. So we bring a significant amount of utility, which is great to see. I know in Dragonflight we had like maybe one dungeon, I think it was Uldaman the last season, where we actually needed to bring Curse to spell. But that was it. That was the only time Curse was ever really useful, which was kind of sad, and then Poison Cleanse wasn't. But now we're seeing a lot more effects and a lot more utility coming out of us, which is great. And but the one thing I am kind of annoyed about is the whole recasting system on the mobs. So if you, let's say, thunderstorm them or stun them during a cast, they're just gonna recast it. And I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's really freaking annoying, especially when like you're out of interrupts and this one guy's trying to heal or cast this really annoying spell. You're just like, oh crap, what do I do? But if it's a channeled effect, such as Seared Mind out of Grim Batol, if you let it begin the channel, so if you let the cast go full and then it's channeling down, right? If you interrupt that with a stun or knock up or whatever, you will interrupt
Collect
it
or stand in
for
circle.
real, and it will go on cooldown. So keep that in mind for when dealing with channeled effects. But yeah, other than that, I think everything for Mythic Plus so far has been great and a lot of fun. Definitely, I'm not sure if it's just the gear level, but stuff still feels quite difficult. Like things hit very, very hard, like extremely hard, especially in like Stonevault and stuff like that. This place was a absolute nightmare to run, especially on the 10. Like you can see, I have 2 stacks of this debuff. I've used both my defensives, and I'm just ticking down like no tomorrow. Like I'm pretty sure I die here. I have 8 stacks and just dead. Like things like that are just really unfortunate and really annoying. For one, I don't think that dot should be able to go on the same target twice, because that definitely felt super unfair. Considering the fact I used both my defensives, maybe I should have spread them out a bit more, or possibly, cast more heals on myself, but still, like, that's quite an excessive amount of damage, and we're getting like 613 gear out of this, which is like, seems really weird. But it is kind of nice having a bit of a challenge and dealing with things differently. Yeah. And then as for this next boss, holy crap, there's so much going on, and it's like if you misstep one thing, like if you're a second late to moving, you lose, and it's like, seriously? Like, it's more of a raid boss than it is a Mythic Plus boss, but like, holy crap. Like, these bosses are like super, I don't know if they're overtuned or just like
Collect or stand
really
in circle.
mechanically required, because like I don't see, the not so experienced players being able to clear some of these bosses very well. And I know they want a difficulty level, but it seems very, very difficult. Like you can see this is going to go through the center. Very simple to dodge, and then you have to interrupt, right? So that one is not too bad. That's the one I feel like everybody knows of. It's the big mech suit. So now you have to get to a corner that doesn't have vent slots or whatever, and then you have to stand there. And then this guy is going to drag it and move. Well, these lava puddles actually have a chance to spawn in the clear zone, which is really annoying. So as the fight goes on, the overlaps get even worse, which is very, very silly. I figure they should have them timed. So now we got exhaust vents again, spitting lava everywhere. And now you have to get ready, scrap song, move out of the center so we can slide that box around, interrupt him, and you can't let him get a cast off because it does a significant amount of damage. Oh, couldn't say that word. But here comes a difficult one. Now we still have lava on the floor, and we have lava in the zone where we want to go. And now he's going to move and grab the box. So it's like really freaking annoying. And then I can only assume on Tyrannical it gets even worse. Like it gets absurdly worse. And now it is clearable and it is, you know, somewhat straightforward. But looking at it possibly from a not so experienced player's standpoint, I could see it being extremely difficult, and this being a dungeon that everybody's just like at a 5 or something, like, yeah, Stonevault, done, game over, dead key. You know what I mean? And that's quite unfortunate. And I'm sure even like the top players, once they get to, you know, probably 18s or 19s, I'm not sure how high they usually go, or how high they're actually going to get this season. But I feel like if they hit Stonevault that high, it's just going to be like, yeah, not going to do that key, which I completely understand because it's freaking annoying. And that is the way it is. So I don't know if you guys have had struggles with any other keys. I know Mist of Tyranid Scythe is super easy. Grim Batol, I believe, is also listed as a difficult one. That one has some really extreme mob mechanics. Not so much the bosses, other than like second last boss there, or the third boss. And the last boss isn't too bad, but a little bit absurd, I guess, because you can't quite see the tentacles under the big fat boss. But yeah, like it's crazy, some of these mechanics. And here I die. I didn't see him charging. I just walked forward. But yeah, this could have gone a lot smoother and a lot better. But the easiest boss in here is actually the last boss, which is kind of hilarious. The first boss on Tyrannical would do a significant amount of damage with those pillar shatters, and keep in mind, you're supposed to break 2 of them. You're not supposed to break all 3. You only want to break 2, then 2 again, and then when he does his Earth Shatter, he breaks the last 2. You never want to break 3 of them, although we did on the first boss. But that is something, you know, lower players may not understand or want to do, or even like break any of them. You know what I mean? So, although I'm sure they're probably looking at guides and figuring it out, it's still like a crazy mechanic to just think about. And the damage that comes out of it, like the mechanic itself isn't too hard to understand or do, unless all 3 pillars are stacked on top of each other, which can happen. The other option would be, well, not really other option, but how you deal with it would be a massive healer cooldown, right? Because it does so much damage, like healers have to burst heal. We're getting back into that whole damage spike thing, right? Where it's not like a small passive amount of damage every time. It's like these massive spikes, and then healers have nothing to heal for a bit, and then it's a massive spike, and then nothing, spike, nothing. And I don't know if healers really like that. I mean, I don't heal. Personally, I don't like it, even though I'm a DPS, because it's bloody annoying. You have to make sure your DPS are using their defensives correctly and perfectly, because if you make a mistake there, well, you're just gonna wipe, and that's gonna suck, right? So it's one of those things where I think the damage threshold could be spread out maybe a bit more, giving the healers more time, I guess, rather than 2 seconds to top somebody before it goes off again. Because in my opinion, that's kind of like weird designing. So hopefully they make some adjustments. I don't know. I'm not a main healer, so I really have no idea. But from like a DPS standpoint, I don't really like it, because I always feel like I could die if I'm not topped off, which you definitely can. And that's when using your defensive properly is required. But if you have to double defensive at some point, and as an enhancement shaman, that's very detrimental, because you really want to astral shift, stone bulwark, then astral shift again. You can help heal with ancestral guidance, but like, it's just a crazy amount. Like, I think this fight here coming up, this last boss, is actually a really well designed fight. The dots are really easily removed just by moving to the portal.
Collect or stand in circle.
The puddles don't do an excessive amount of damage, but they do noticeably enough that you really shouldn't stand in them. Um, and you know, there isn't really much mechanics. You got a frontal, you got the dot to move to the portals move, and then you just have a puddle to drop that will disappear over time. So I really like this boss coming up. I think it's a great design, and honestly, it's not too difficult, and it's very straightforward. Nothing to worry about here. But yeah, anyways, guys, yeah, just to reiterate, enhancement feeling amazing. Play whichever spec you want to. Both specs are neck and neck for top. So it really is a preference whether you want to play Storm, whether you want to play Elementalist, completely up to you. Completely up to you. I personally am more of a Storm guy right now because I played 2 seasons in a row in Dragonflight of Elementalist. Very annoying to do that. I don't like being forced into a build. I like having the option to. So one day if I'm like, feel like playing a bit of Elementalist, bam, I can just swap and not worry about a DPS loss unless I make mistakes.
Jump 3 times.
But yeah, Elementalist, very unforgiving, but very, I guess, rewarding if played correctly. And then Storm is just like RNG God. You're rolling the dice, and if you roll the dice well, you're going to do a lot of damage. If you don't roll the dice well, you're still going to do a lot of damage, just not as much as you could. But that's about it. No matter what you do, like Storm just does damage, and it's kind of nice. And as for the rework, still more to come, hopefully. I imagine they're definitely not near to where they want it to be, but you know, we'll find out very, very soon. It seems to be every Thursday or Friday that they release some PTR notes, so keep an eye on that if you're interested, or if you're just gonna wait until the 11.5 comes out. Yeah, that's fair too. But yeah, everything is looking great. Enhancement feels great. Congratulations to Liquid too. They did awesome. I can't believe that. That was pretty cool to see. I know Echo were right there, right behind them, but they have a bit of extra pulls, so I think Liquid technically did win this. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Laters!